What's up, everybody? Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So lots of news to go over here. There's a bunch of very high-end reveals this week, but I first want to get to the more relatable stuff that most of you will probably enjoy more. So we got a bunch of rumors from Best Car Magazine out of Japan here this past week. And so the main thing here is on the intel for the next-gen WRX and WRX STI, which many of you have been asking about. I didn't have any rumors to report for the longest time, but now we finally have some rumors that sound reasonable enough that this seems credible, and I am inclined to believe most of this. So first off, we have the Tokyo Motor Show coming up in October. That is where some of these are rumored to be previewed, at least in concept form, if not production form. So first off, we have the rumors here about the WRX and WRX STI. There's a few other Japanese cars we'll talk about in a minute. So both WRX and WRX STI rumored to be coming next year, so I'm guessing that means 2021 model year vehicles. The main news here is they're going to be supposedly for the STI is going to be switching to the FA20 motor that's in the new the current WRX, and so that's going to be doing about 315 horsepower supposedly in STI form. And so I'm not sure what other changes they'll make to it, but it will be a pumped up version somehow. And so both the WRX and the STI are going to be switching to the Subaru Global platform, of course, just like the Impreza that's been on it for several years now. So the ride comfort and stuff should be much better. That Subaru Global platform is really impressive in a lot of ways. And they also are saying that it's going to be keeping the 6-speed manual for both the STI and the regular WRX. As far as the manual goes, I'm sure there'll be an automatic option. Not sure if they'll stick with the CVT. Most likely they will, but we'll have to see. As far as sizing goes, though, otherwise, it's saying they're going to be pretty similar in size to the current car, actually. So don't expect it to grow or shrink too much. So that's good. I think it's a pretty good size as is. And styling is going to be likely influenced by that Visive Performance STI concept that you see there, and Best Car reports that it'll have greatly inflated front and rear fenders. So think like wide body WRX and STIs of, like the 2011 ones, whenever they did that switch, maybe even a little more exaggerated than that. As far as the standard WRX goes, and news for that, it's likely going to be keeping the same carryover FA20 engine for America, although that's kind of a hunch right now, because the info here from Best Car Magazine is that in Japan, the WRX and the Levorg are going to be getting two new engines, a 1.5-liter turbo and a 1.8-liter turbo that are both going to be smaller, lighter, and more efficient, of course. The 1.5 will supposedly do 148 horsepower, so that sounds kind of like a base Impreza replacement, possibly, a new motor instead of the 2-liter naturally aspirated one down the road. And then the 1.8-liter will do 266 horsepower, so that sounds much more WRX-like. So it sounds like that could be the sporty engine there for Japan for the non-STIs. I don't know if we'll get that engine or not. Historically, Subaru's been perfectly content giving us old engines or, giving us different stuff here in the States than what they get in Japan. But I think, downsizing could be a nice little boost for the FA20 to kind of differentiate it so that you have maybe an FA18 and then you have the FA20 and the STI to kind of give it a little bit of a hierarchy again as far as displacement goes. But we'll have to see what they end up doing with that. But intrigued to hear more about that 1.8. Other stuff, though, they just said that either concept or production versions of these could debut at the Tokyo Motor Show next month. We haven't seen anything spied, though, so I doubt there would be a production vehicle shown. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Other rumors here from Best Car include a report about the next-gen BRZ in 86. So they just vaguely say that they'll be moving it to a new platform. They didn't say what new platform. It's most likely Toyota's TNGA platform, but maybe it could be on Subaru's global platform. We'll have to see. But the size and proportions of the car are going to also be staying close to the current dimensions. Happily, it's still also going to be offered in a 6-speed manual. But strangely, this report says it'll continue with a 6-speed automatic option as well. And outside of this BRZ in 86, I don't know of another Subaru or Toyota product that still uses a 6-speed automatic in the 2019 and 2020 model years here. I think everything else has gone on to 8-speed automatics or CVTs. So not sure if that makes a lot of sense, but we'll have to wait and see. It will get a new engine, though, supposedly, for the new BRZ in 86. Supposedly, it'll be running a non-turbo version of the Subaru Ascent's FA24 motor. And so without that turbo, Best Car is estimating it's going to get about 217 horsepower. So, barely a 15 horse, not even a 15 horsepower bump. But Subaru had originally designed the FA24 to be a torquey engine, obviously for the Ascent in turbo form. But maybe that will help benefit the BRZ and the 86, so that maybe this next gen motor, even if it doesn't do a huge horsepower jump, might get a huge torque jump. Instead of having 156 pound-feet, you give it 200 pound-feet of torque. Then you have a car that's a lot peppier still, even though the horsepower number isn't, way higher, no turbo. But if you have a nice torquey engine, kind of think what you get like with the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine in the Mazda 3s. That's a pretty torquey motor, 181 pound-feet. That would be a nice bump there, something like that. So we'll have to see. But anyway, an interesting report there. And that also, we could see some type of concept at Tokyo, but, no promises, I guess, there. The last best car report here is talking about Mazda, and so their Vision Coupe concept they claim is going to get a production version here. And although the concept was a 4-door, the story says they'll be coming out with both a 4-door and a 2-door version of that very beautiful vehicle. Maybe the 2-door could look very much like the RX Vision concept, but yeah, so that's what they're saying here. And we do know that Mazda's official 2019 investor report here already mentioned that there's going to be a rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive architecture, and it mentioned inline 6 engines, and so that's officially in the pipeline from Mazda. And so it seems appropriate to put it in this new Halo model and have a little bit of a performance-oriented version, possibly with a coupe. And so Best Car elaborates a little more. They claim that the inline 6 will be a 3-liter Skyactiv X engine with 48-volt mild hybrid assistance, and that the goal is supposedly 345 horsepower for that engine. Now that sounds fantastic. Mazdas haven't been known for being very punchy, aside from the recent 2.5T motors, and even that's only 250 horsepower. So going up an extra almost 100 horsepower with this engine sounds fantastic. So 350 horsepower coupe from Mazda, it's rear-wheel drive, that looks as good as the RX Vision. Sign me up for one of those. That would be fantastic. And they're saying here in this report it would arrive at dealerships in 2022, and Mazda's goal would be to bring BMW and Audi quality at the price of Volkswagen. So that all sounds great. Hopefully that turns out to be true. Moving on to some official news here this week, though. Porsche revealed the very expensive and very sweet 2020 Taycan Turbo and Turbo S. So this is totally electric, but Turbo is just the trim designation. They wanted it to stay consistent with other Porsche products and not confuse people with the hierarchy. And so Turbo is just top trim, basically. It's sad that it doesn't mean anything more than that, but that's what they said. They said they wanted to fit in with the other vehicles in the lineup. It looks very cool, though. I gotta say, it looks almost identical to the concept, and I love and respect manufacturers that actually deliver cars that look as awesome as the concepts, and Porsche has pulled it off here. So it's about 3 inches shorter than a Panamera and about the same size as the Tesla Model S, but it is lower than both of those vehicles, so a lot swoopier. It also uses 2 electric motors, one at each axle for all-wheel drive, and in the rear there's actually a 2-speed transmission, which is, I don't think it's a first for a modern electric car, but I think it is one of the very, very rare. I think someone pointed out on Instagram maybe the Rimac uses a 2-speed automatic as well. But so yeah, that's pretty awesome. And so it shifts around 62 miles per hour depending on the mode and stuff for better high-speed efficiency. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, much like with gas engines, if you have better efficiency in those higher gears, why not have gears? So that makes sense. Top speed is 162 miles per hour for both models. And when normally driving around, both the Turbo and the Turbo S models put out 616 horsepower. So really the only difference between the Turbo and Turbo S is the overboost here, so, and also probably more equipment and stuff, but there's an overboost function both in the Turbo and the Turbo S. In the Turbo, it gives you 670 horsepower temporarily instead of 616. In the Turbo S, it jumps all the way up to 750 horsepower with that overboost mode. Torque is 626 for the Turbo and 774 pound-feet for the Turbo S. 0 to 60 for the Turbo is 3 seconds flat, and the Turbo S does it in 2.6 thanks to that extra overboost. Quarter mile is 11.1 seconds for the Turbo. Turbo S will do a quarter mile in 10.8 seconds, which is pretty pretty wild. Battery is a 93 kilowatt hour pack, and can go from 5 to 80% charge in 22 and a half minutes on the fastest chargers there in that Electrify America network that's rolling out. And they say it can charge so quickly thanks partially to the fact that it has an 800 volt charging system instead of the 400 volt systems that most electric vehicles use. And they also have an interesting trick where the battery pack is in a T shape in the back seat there, so there's actually cutouts for this rear passenger feet, and so it's going to give you a little bit more leg room and kind of just make it seem a little more spacious, despite the fact that it's lower than some of the competitors and a little bit smaller. So that's pretty cool. And so other things here, range is 450 kilometers or 280 miles according to Porsche, but that hasn't been tested yet by the EPA for an official rating. Charging is free for up to 30 minutes for the first 3 years of ownership. That 30-minute limit they designed that prevents people from hogging the chargers. So it's apparently sounds like you're really only going to need about 30 minutes max anyway, and so totally understandable. And it has an air suspension similar to the one on the Panamera to help with the handling. Plus, it has rear wheel steering and a bunch of other tricks up its sleeve, electronic limited slip differential and stuff. But it's going to need all the help it can get because these weigh 5,121 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's about the same weight as a new Ram 1500 Limited crew cab 4x4. Like, that's how heavy these are. So it's a heavy vehicle for a vehicle that's not that big. To help it with that extra weight, you're going to have huge 10 piston brake calipers up front and 4 pistons in the rear to haul all that weight down to a stop. Porsche says it's going to be going on sale before the end of this year, actually, so coming pretty fast here. I think production's already started, and they already have 30,000 pre-orders, at least as of a couple of days ago. It might even have gone up. We'll have to see. But prices are going to be starting at $150,900 for the Turbo and $185,000 for the Turbo S. So you can max out one of these Turbo S's, I think, well into the 220s. It's expensive. So, like with other Porsche models, this is the top of the range. There will be lower ones. There will probably be a standard Taycan, Taycan S, maybe Taycan GTS. We'll have to see. Porsche hasn't committed to any other models currently, but we know that they're coming, and they usually come pretty quickly as well. So, I would give it a couple more months before we see more variants, if not sooner than that. So anyway, that should help bring the pricing down on those other ones eventually. But yeah, so awesome to see that though, and just awesome that the Taycan is finally here after so many years of speculation and rumors and stuff. And in some other high-end EV news, Mercedes has teased the Vision EQS concept here. They'll be showing at Frankfurt next week. And so the silhouette image here shows a car that's very similar to the prototype that was spied not too long ago. The interior is very futuristic looking, but I'm basically just expecting the shape of the center console area and the large central touchscreen to make it to production, but most likely the rest of it probably won't. We'll have to wait and see, but it looks very cool. You got those little screens there on the doors and everything. It looks awesome, but we did see some spy photos recently of Mercedes with a large central touchscreen, very similar in design to that one you see there. So that should make it to production, but we'll have to see what ends up making the production. This is just a concept, but we do know this is coming. This is going to compete with the Taycan, and so Mercedes is going to be rolling it out fairly quickly, I think. So anyway, cool to see that tease, and we'll see more next week. Lamborghini has already shown their Frankfurt debut here, and it's the Sian, I think is Cyan, maybe is how you pronounce it, so it's not like Scion. But so anyway, this is a production car, but they're only making 63 of them, and they're all sold already, of course. It's based on the Aventador here, but does look pretty sweet and completely different with this all new body and stuff. And it has power to back up these awesome looks too. So it's the first production hybrid from Lamborghini, and so it's going to be running the familiar V12 from the Aventador, but now it does its best ever horsepower output of 785 horsepower on its own, and then plus there's an electric motor here powering it by a supercapacitor instead of a normal battery pack, and so that gives it an extra 34 horsepower for a grand total of 819 horsepower, and so that electric motor gives a boost in performance, fuel economy, and it can even move the car all on its own, although they said it's super low speeds, like basically when you're parking it, you can park it in electric mode. And so that's awesome though, so that if you're trying to roll out of your driveway quietly, or you're wanting to park in a restaurant and not make a huge commotion, even though you're driving a very loud looking Aventador variant. Basically, you can kind of roll in stealthy in electric mode, and that's very cool. So that's awesome. And so the 0 to 62 time for this vehicle is going to be 2.8 seconds and a top speed of over 220. They say it represents the first step in Lamborghini's route to electrification and expedites our next generation V12 engine. So cool to see that. And some other hypercar crazy news here. We have Bugatti has set another record here. So, the Veyron, of course, was record setting. And now Bugatti is the first manufacturer to hit 300 miles per hour in a road car. So technically this is a Chiron prototype. So this isn't a production car currently, but it basically will be. You can see it's got a longer tail and a resculpted nose. And so this is most likely the super sport version is the thinking here, because Bugatti has said that this is a forthcoming variant of the Chiron. So I'm pretty sure that the production vehicle will also be able to do this top speed. And the top speed, the official record that was set was 304.773 miles per hour, which makes it over 20 miles per hour faster than the Koenigsegg Agera RS. And Michelin made special Pilot Cup Sport 2 tires that were even x-rayed before they did the top speed run to make sure they were 100% perfect, because obviously there is no margin of error when you're going this fast on the ground. So that is pretty wild, and I'll actually link, Bugatti has the video of them doing the top speed run. I'll link a little card up there for that, and you can watch it. It's pretty wild, and also very drama free, because Bugatti is just so good at making these high speed vehicles that it's just something that's very ordinary feeling in a lot of ways, I think, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, back to some normal car news here. Nissan has revealed the new Juke, but that's only for Europe. Unfortunately, I know I got some Nissan fans that are probably bummed we're not getting the new Juke here most likely, but it looks awesome, I think. Actually, a huge improvement over the previous looks of the old one, but it won't be quick, that's for sure, because at least in Europe here, the only engine it's getting is a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine that does 115 horsepower and 133 pound-feet of torque, although torque can go up to 148 pound-feet for up to 25 seconds if you floor it. One good thing, though, is that it comes with either a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic or a 6-speed manual. Both are huge improvements over the CVTs that Nissan usually puts in their stuff. So that's fantastic. So if they brought it here with, a more powerful engine, and it could be that, maybe a different transmission if they had to, but if you can keep a dual clutch auto or the manual, and maybe even put like the VC turbo motor from the Ultima in with like 250 odd horsepower in this Juke as a Juke Nismo or something, that'd be fantastic. And everyone in the States would love it, I think. It could be a nice premium offering over the Kicks and the Rogue Sport, which are kind of bland in a way compared to some of the other offerings in the segment that do offer turbo power and stuff like that. I think this could be really an exciting offering, and also have the funky styling to help it compete with stuff like the Hyundai Kona and stuff like that. But anyway, for right now, it's only for Europe, and so interesting to see that nonetheless. We also have some info here on the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee this week, and so I showed some spy shots for that recently, and so this new info here comes thanks to the Jeep guy on Instagram. So this shows an internal printout. I'm not sure how they obtained it, but it shows the interior features here for the new Grand Cherokee, and there's lots of them. So there's a new steering wheel listed, a choice of either a 7-inch or a 10.5-inch digital cluster gauge setup. There's options for either the existing 7-inch or 8.4-inch Uconnect touchscreens being available, or a brand new 10.1-inch screen, which is interesting. There's a massaging seat option supposedly here, a new gear selector knob, a heads-up display is going to be an option, and many other things. So I'll link the image in the description there, so you can go read every little detail there if you'd like. But anyway, it sounds like this new Jeep Grand Cherokee is shaping up to be a really strong competitor, and excited to see that. The rumor is that that's going to debut at next year's Detroit Motor Show, which isn't happening until June of next year, so a little ways off. Maybe we'll see something sooner. We'll have to wait and see. And lastly, we have some official FCA news here, and that is that Fiat has announced that they're killing off the 500 here in the States, at least for now. This seems kind of strange because they're killing all 500. So the normal 500 in the hatchback, the convertible, the Abarth version, and that's convertible, all those are getting killed off, as well as the electric version too. And so next year, all Fiat's going to have is the 500X, the 500L, and the 124 Spider. But the weird thing is actually, and I didn't even realize this, but the 500 sells better than all those other models. It does better than the 500X crossover, supposedly. It's doing better than all those. And the 500X, by the way, I guess has been selling horribly in the past year or so, because even the 124 Spider sells more than the 500X. So that's saying something. I had no clue that Fiat was doing those kinds of numbers and the odd setup that those are at. But anyway, so for them killing off their best-selling model makes no sense unless there's a replacement coming. So I'm thinking that that's the case. Obviously, Volkswagen just killed off the Beetle, so maybe they're just like, well, we don't see the value in having a small car or something. But I think Fiat is really, strong to their brand identity still. And I think, there was talks of them doing a new electric version and doing a new version. So maybe in a year or two we'll see a new one. But in the meantime, the Fiat brand's going to be a little lean here, it appears. So anyway, kind of sad to see that, because that's, one more of these cute, cool kind of little compact city cars going away now that the Beetle's dead as well. But anyway, let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. That's it for all the news this week, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.